On March 27, 2026, the USS Tripoli did not simply arrive in the Middle East. A full amphibious force package, roughly 3,500 sailors and Marines, F-35B strike fighters, and the entire 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit crossed into the U.S. Central Command Area of Responsibility, and the American military posture in the region changed overnight. 14 days earlier, the Pentagon had pulled Tripoli out of the Philippine Sea and pointed it toward a war. Not because it was the biggest ship they could send, but because it might be the most flexible. What that flexibility actually means is the real story. CENTCOM's announcement on March 27, 2026, was unmistakable. The USS Tripoli, carrying a full amphibious force package, about 3,500 sailors and Marines, had entered the Central Command Area of Responsibility. This was not just a ship passing through. It meant that, for the first time since the conflict with Iran began, commanders in the region had a mobile aviation-centered assault base on station. The statement confirmed that Tripoli brought transport and strike fighter aircraft, amphibious assault and tactical assets directly into the theater. That figure, 3,500, reflects the combined strength of the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group and the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, ship crews, aviation detachments, and ground combat forces, all embarked and operational. The force included F-35B, Lightning II strike fighters, MV-22 Ospreys, and a full suite of helicopters and support elements. Unlike previous deployments that relied on land bases or smaller detachments, Tripoli's arrival put an entire, self-sustaining Marine Air-Ground Task Force at sea, within reach of any crisis point from the Strait of Hormuz to the Arabian Peninsula. For CENTCOM, this was more than a symbolic show of presence. The command now possessed a flexible, expeditionary force package, one that could launch airstrikes, insert Marines ashore, or support evacuation operations without waiting for permission from host nations. The decision to send Tripoli was deliberate, not because of size, but because of its ability to adapt. In a region where threats shift by the hour, having that kind of option on the water changes the calculus for every commander in the area. On March 13, 2026, news outlets began reporting that USS Tripoli and its embarked Marines were being pulled from Pacific operations for immediate redeployment to the Middle East. The decision, attributed to senior Pentagon approval, was not made public through any official release or transcript. Instead, confirmation came through leaks to major news agencies, all citing anonymous U.S. officials. At that moment, Tripoli was still operating in the Philippine Sea, having just completed joint exercises near Japan. Satellite tracking and commercial imagery placed the ship in those Western Pacific waters only days before the order. The move was not routine. Redirecting Tripoli meant pulling a major amphibious force package, over 3,000 sailors and Marines, with F-35B strike fighters and MV-22 Ospreys, away from the Indo-Pacific, a region already stretched by competing priorities. The decision required a trade-off. Pacific Command would lose a forward-deployed aviation assault base, while Central Command would gain a flexible, self-sustaining force able to operate without land-based support. This was not simply about moving a ship from point A to point B. The Pentagon had to weigh the risk of thinning out assets in the Pacific against the urgent need for rapid options in the Middle East. The speed of the redeployment, launching from the Philippine Sea, through the Malacca Strait, and across the Indian Ocean in less than 2 weeks, reflected a clear sense of priority. The order was not about sending the largest ship, but about fielding a force package built for adaptability, able to answer shifting demands in a conflict zone where no 2 days look the same. On March 18, 2026, USS Tripoli and its Amphibious Ready Group surged through the Strait of Malacca, a passage that narrows to just under 2 miles at its tightest point, and yet carries nearly a quarter of the world's traded goods each year. For the crew on the bridge, this was no routine checkpoint. The Malacca transit was a milestone, not just in distance, but in urgency. Satellite tracking from maritime analysts registered the group's position as it threaded between Singapore and the northern tip of Sumatra, pushing westward at sustained speed. Every hour mattered. A ship of Tripoli's size, over 44,000 tons, with aviation fuel, munitions, and a full complement of sailors and Marines, does not pass unnoticed, even with operational security measures in place. The Strait of Malacca has always been a strategic funnel, a place where commercial traffic and military movements are compressed into a single, vulnerable corridor. For Tripoli's command team, the challenge was to maintain pace while navigating one of the world's busiest and most surveilled waterways. The ship's movement was tracked not only by open-source enthusiasts, but also by regional navies and commercial radar. With the Indo-Pacific behind them, the crew now faced the long stretch across the Indian Ocean, and the Malacca crossing marked the halfway point to Central Command's area of responsibility. The speed of this transit was deliberate. Tripoli and its escorts covered the distance from the Philippine Sea to Malacca in just a few days, maintaining a tempo more common to carrier strike groups than to amphibious elements. There was no lingering in regional ports, no publicized port calls. The pace reflected a clear sense of priority, a force package being pushed forward to meet a crisis, not simply rotating through the region. For the Marines and sailors embarked, the urgency was palpable. The mission was not about presence alone, but about delivering a flexible, aviation-centered assault base exactly where it was needed, as fast as the sea would allow. March 23rd brought a brief but critical pause for the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group as it entered port at Diego Garcia. This remote British outpost in the Indian Ocean has long served as a logistical anchor for U.S. naval operations transiting between the Pacific and the Middle East. For Tripoli's supply officers, the stop was not about rest, but about sustaining the tempo set by the rapid redeployment order. The group needed fuel, food, and aviation stores, essentials to keep 3,500 sailors and Marines mission-ready for the final push into Central Command's area of responsibility. Operational security shaped every aspect of the Diego Garcia visit. There were no public berthing logs, no satellite images released, and no official Navy statements confirming the port call at the time. The only outside indicator came from a single entry in the USNI fleet tracker, which quietly placed Tripoli and its escorts at Diego Garcia on March 23rd. This lack of open-source tracking was by design. With the war in Iran escalating and American forces already under threat, the Navy kept the group's movements shielded from prying eyes. The absence of AIS signals and real-time reporting was a calculated measure, not an oversight. Inside the ship, supply teams worked around the clock. Refueling was coordinated with base personnel under tight time constraints. Pallets of aviation's ordnance, spare parts, and perishable goods were loaded in sequence, with priority given to the systems that would be needed first in theater: jet fuel for F-35B aircraft, hydraulic fluid for Ospreys, and fresh rations for the embarked Marines. The group's logistics planners had mapped out every hour of the stop, knowing that any delay could ripple through the entire deployment schedule. By the morning of March 24th, Tripoli and its Ready Group were back at sea, heading northwest. The Diego Garcia pit stop had lasted less than 24 hours, but it made the difference between a force arriving at the edge of exhaustion and one prepared for immediate operations. The ability to resupply at speed, under strict operational security, underscored the logistical reach required for a modern amphibious force to remain flexible and effective as it closed on a live conflict zone. USS Tripoli was designed from the keel up to serve as a floating AR base, not a conventional amphibious ship. At 844 feet long and 106 feet across the beam, its sheer size is only part of the story. The real difference lies inside where the layout reflects a single, decisive trade-off: the elimination of the well deck. Instead of carrying landing craft for beach assaults, Tripoli devotes that entire lower volume to aviation. The hangar deck stretches nearly the full length of the ship, with 2 high bay areas equipped with overhead cranes for rapid aircraft maintenance. This expanded hangar allows Tripoli to support more than 30 aircraft, F-35B, Lightning II strike fighters, MV-22 Ospreys, and a full suite of helicopters at once, with the capacity to surge even higher for short periods. Naval architects made the choice to remove the well deck after studying the demands of modern expeditionary warfare. By freeing up space below the flight deck, they increased the ship's aviation fuel stores, parts stowage, and maintenance areas. The 2 aircraft elevators, placed port and starboard, move planes and helicopters between the hangar and the flight deck with a steady rhythm, supporting a pace of operations that rivals some light aircraft carriers. Every inch of the interior is shaped by the logic of air power, from the widened passageways for moving jet engines, to the dedicated ordnance handling rooms, to the reconfigurable command and control spaces that anchor the Marine Air Ground Task Force. The absence of a well deck is not a flaw. It is a deliberate break from tradition. Tripoli is built to insert Marines by air, not by sea, projecting force deep inland from over the horizon. This means the ship can support distributed operations, launching F-35Bs for strikes or MV-22s for rapid troop movement, all without waiting for a beach to be secured. The result is a platform that looks less like a transport and more like a mobile, self-sustaining aviation hub, one that delivers flexibility and reach wherever it is sent. In a region where threats can shift in hours, that flexibility is its true value. Commanders in the Central Command area now held a set of options that simply did not exist before Tripoli's arrival. With its aviation-focused design, the ship acts as a floating base for marine air-ground operations, untethered from the vulnerabilities of fixed ports or airfields. The concept of sea basing becomes real here. Tripoli can remain on station for weeks, sustaining its embarked force with fuel, ordnance, and supplies loaded at sea or during tightly controlled port visits. With the elimination of the well deck, the ship is optimized to launch and recover aircraft around the clock, including F-35Bs for precision strikes, MV-22 Ospreys, and helicopters for rapid troop movement, and rotary assets for reconnaissance or casualty evacuation. This aviation-centric approach allows commanders to bypass damaged, threatened, or politically unavailable ports. Marines and their equipment can be inserted deep inland by air without exposing ships to the dangers of a contested shoreline. In a crisis, this means the ability to reinforce embassies, secure key infrastructure, or extract civilians from unstable areas, missions that depend on speed and reach, not just brute force. The ship's medical facilities, upgraded from earlier classes, support non-combatant evacuation operations and casualty care far from established bases. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, embarked aboard Tripoli, brings a tailored aviation detachment, F-35Bs, capable of operating from short runways or austere landing zones, Ospreys for vertical insertion, and helicopters for lift and support. This mix gives commanders a toolkit for everything from high-end combat to humanitarian response. The ship's command and control spaces can be reconfigured in hours, supporting joint or multinational operations as the situation demands. What distinguishes Tripoli is not just its size or firepower, but its ability to deliver flexibility, sustained force wherever needed. In the shifting threat environment of the Middle East, that flexibility is the decisive advantage, enabling rapid response, persistent presence, and options for escalation or de-escalation as events unfold. Numbers matter in military deployments, and the figure attached to the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group about 3,500 sailors and Marines, reflects more than just a headline. It is not, as some reports suggest, a pure count of Marines. The official total combines the ship's Navy crew, the embarked 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, aviation detachments, and essential support elements across the Amphibious Ready Group's vessels. Administrative officers aboard the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit keep precise rosters. Roughly 2,200 to 2,500 Marines, including ground combat, aviation, and logistics, are embarked alongside nearly 1,000 to 1,300 sailors who run Tripoli, USS New Orleans, and support ships. This composite force is what enables the group to operate as a self-sustaining, mobile base, capable of launching air assaults, sustaining flight operations, and responding to crises without relying on land infrastructure. By using the combined figure, CENTCOM avoids inflating expectations or underplaying the complexity of what arrived in theater. The reality is a balanced, integrated team, deliberately sized for flexibility, not just mass. Missile and drone strikes have become routine across the Gulf, with Iranian-backed groups targeting United States bases, ports, and shipping lanes. In just February and March, over 50 attacks were recorded. Ballistic missiles hitting Saudi installations, explosive drones harassing tankers in the Gulf of Oman. Each strike chips away at fixed infrastructure, leaving once secure bases exposed and supply routes vulnerable. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow artery for nearly 20% of the world's oil, stands as the region's most volatile choke point. Here, even a single mine or drone can send shockwaves through global markets. Iranian forces have shown they can disrupt shipping with fast boats, sea mines, and swarms of drones, favoring hit-and-run tactics that sidestep direct confrontation. No port or airfield is truly safe. Logistics chains are under constant threat. In this environment, the need for a mobile, sea-based platform is undeniable. One that can launch operations or evacuate without relying on land, shifting the balance for both United States forces and their adversaries. Tripoli's arrival in the Central Command Theater sent a message that went far beyond numbers. For planners in Tampa and Forward Headquarters, the deployment was a demonstration of how the United States now values adaptability over sheer mass. Instead of relying on the largest ship or the most visible show of force, the Pentagon moved a toolkit, one that could shift from strike operations to evacuation or reinforcement at a moment's notice. The speed of Tripoli's redeployment, crossing oceans in under 2 weeks, signaled that Washington could shift priorities and resources faster than adversaries might expect. To allies, this meant reassurance. The U.S. could reinforce or extract without waiting for diplomatic clearance or building up on foreign soil. To adversaries, it was a warning that escalation could be controlled, not just through overwhelming firepower, but by fielding a force that could appear, adapt, and act before fixed defenses could be repositioned. The real message was not about the presence of 3,500 sailors and Marines, but about the arrival of a force designed to answer uncertainty with options, flexibility not mass, as the currency of deterrence. What enters the region today is not just steel and decks, but a fully equipped, aviation-centered amphibious force, thousands of sailors and Marines, with flexible crisis response built into its core. This is a strategic redeployment, not a routine transit. As threats evolve near critical choke points, Tripoli's presence signals that adaptability, not size, now defines American power projection. The calculus of deterrence in the Middle East just changed.